Hi there guys, Neil at Italia Autos here. Welcome back to another video on my channel. We're back with the Calibra again and we're going to try and find out why there's no fuel coming through. If you remember in the last episode, we just literally tried to get the car running. And we couldn't because there was no fuel, but we did manage to get the engine running on a little bit of easy start, and it ran pretty well, and it also sounded pretty well as well. So now we need to try and find out why there's no fuel coming through. So we're underneath the car now, and as it had been cranked over and ran for a little bit, oh, fuel must be getting through because it's all wet there and it wasn't wet there before. So I'm going to replace these fuel pipes today to start with and see. So I've never done fuel pipes before, as in replace them and make them. I've done plenty of brake pipes. So I need to go and see what I can buy from my parts place. So I need to start, before I can do that, by removing these fuel pipes. And fingers crossed we have some fuel come out. Oh, look at that, look. Barely touched it and it's already started leaking. Oh, right in the fucking oil.
Oh, no.
Second one in the oil. Just touching these fuel pipes and they're just springing a leak. All I'm doing, I've just moved it and then just leak, drip, drip, drip all over the floor. So it looks like right up to the engine, all the way back to the fuel tank is pretty much rotten. I've got all the way to the fuel filter now. I've not removed the ones sort of coming over the back of the subframe because I want to keep them there so I can kind of make the shape for when I put them back in. So I'm going to try and remove the filter and then crank the engine and see if any more fuel comes out because we want to get this tank empty. So the fuel pipes come up to there and then into the engine from there, so it should be quite easy to change those two down there, all from underneath. So I am now off to the parts shop to hopefully get some of the right size fuel pipe and some rubber fuel hose, and I'm also going to get some fuel as well, and let's see if we can get it running in this episode. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start from the back of the car and work my way forwards. Not really much to film really, I'm just making basically pipes and sticking connections on it, and that's about it. So I might just do a little time lapse and that'll be it. So after a lot of faffing around, I've pretty much got the fuel pipe cut and in place. It's not secured or shaped or anything like that yet because it's going to have to come off, or at least be moved out of the way when I do a bit of welding. So I'm not too fussed about the shape of it or the way it looks at the minute. And I've also installed the fuel filter, but I've left the end off so I can now put some fuel in it and see if fuel comes spilling out of there. And if it doesn't, we've got to drop the tank and replace the pump. So rescuing this 15-year-old barn find, the fuel pipes were absolutely rotten. As you can see here, look, there's not much left on that at all. And the majority of them were all exactly the same. As soon as I've touched it, it's all fallen into many pieces indeed. So that's the joys of leaving a car sitting in a field for 15 years. Going to put about 5 litres in because there's no point in putting any more if the fuel pump's gone. So just about 5 litres, that should be enough to hopefully pull the fuel through and see if it comes out. So no joy, no starter today because I need to order a fuel pump. No, it's as dry as a bone. So as that was wet when I looked at it this morning, the engine running had probably drawn a little bit of fuel through with the pressure. But yeah, that fuel pump isn't working at all. I say I couldn't hear it buzzing when I first turned the ignition on or anything, so I need to go and have a look for one of those now. So now I suppose we'd better remove the tank. I think there's 4 bolts holding it up and probably some other bits and bobs, but I'll see what we can do just to get the tank out and pull that pump out and see if we can order another one. And of course we've got one which has rotted away to nothing. I've tried cleaning it up, but there's nothing on there, but at least the other 3 have come loose. So what I can do is hopefully bend this back out the way and then we can still drop the fuel tank. First, I'd better check to make sure the fuel pump is faulty. What you've just seen me do is put my power probe onto the fuel pump connections and it just like, nothing at all. So it is going to be a cream crackered. So we do have to drop the tank after all. This one was extremely tight, so I've tightened it back up again. Copious amounts of WD-40, let it sit for a minute, and we'll try again. It was still really tight, but we did manage to get it out without it snapping. Trying to get the fuel tank in a position where it's not going to fall off, because if it falls off it's going to break all the little delicate connections on the fuel tank and I'm going to need to find a new fuel tank, and I don't want to have to do that. So it's imperative that I don't break anything. Surprisingly straightforward to remove. I just had to undo these 2 connections for the filler and we're then revealed with the fuel pump, but I don't really want to try and undo those 2 there because the likelihood they will snap when I try and take them off. And the pipework goes all around to the side of the tank and underneath, so I think I've probably got enough to mess around with here. I'm gonna have to attempt it because I can't get enough room down. Oh, one's come undone. Okay, they've both come undone, good. Right, I am glad they have come undone because it means I can now properly drop the fuel tank all the way down, near enough. So I've got one more connection round here to do. And that's why I only wanted to put 5 litres in, just in case I had to carry the tank. Problem is that has rotted and I'm not sure that's going to come off very easy at all. I am using an extremely blunt chisel for this job, which I have deliberately made flat for occasions like this. tank to get to the bottom of the fuel pump. It is actually secured by 3 little clips. So just push each one of those in and then it'll eventually wiggle free and you can pull it up. And now I'm trying to commit to memory on how it all goes back together and in what position, but I'm sure by the time it comes to putting it back in, I'm going to have totally forgot. And that is one fuel pump removed. The filter is a little bit full of crap, but I'll be cleaning that out before I put it back together. I'm trying to work out how it comes apart because it's not held together by any screws or anything, but I did get there after a couple of seconds. Again, it's all held in with clips. One fuel pump. Negative side of the pump, positive side of the pump. Yeah, you see? It just clicks. So that pump is seized. So there we go, we have got down to the bottom of the fault with the Calibra. It is down to a faulty fuel pump as to why the fuel wasn't coming through. And if you remember back to the beginning video, we found some easy start in the car and also the intake pipe was off. This could be the reason why the car got parked up. So I'm going to go and order one of these now, and I'm going to have to leave it here for probably a week now because I'm going away. But by the time you see this, I've already come back. I've been back a few weeks, so see you in a minute. Right guys, 1 week later and I am back from my jolly day, all jet lagged and tired. But I thought I'd come in to get this episode finished. And fingers crossed, this is the right pump. It's ordered off AutoDock because it was the cheapest place I could find. And the pictures of it did match up. And I did put the old pump back in so we know exactly how it goes together. One thing I don't particularly like is how crusty that is in there. So I'm gonna have to clean that up because otherwise all the crap from inside the pump is gonna drop straight into the tank and it's not gonna be very good and it won't last very long. So let's remove this filter and we'll put the new one on there instead. Fuel pump's coming out. This is a bit of a clean up because I'm gonna do it dirty. Pump looks the same. We are good to go. Like that. Let's go and clean that up first as well. Purely using this aftermarket one is going to be better than using that one, which is absolutely filled with crud. I can't put this one back in yet because that rest of that pump is filthy. So we need to be taking this apart now. Oh, I've only just noticed that. That wire is all falling apart. That's for the fuel sender, that is. So that would explain why the fuel sender wasn't working. So that's inside the fuel tank, and if you look at that, that is all falling apart. The wire on it is all disintegrated, so I need to find out how to get that off the rest of the sender and repair that connection somehow. Otherwise we're not going to have any fuel level on the gauge. So let's clean this up as best I can, and yeah, don't have much hope, but I've got no choice because I couldn't find any anywhere. Well, cleaning it up, we've ran into a little problem. Can you see what's going on there? It's literally rusted through from the inside out pretty much. So it is cream crackered. I could probably weld it, but would the welds be watertight? I don't know. So let's see if we can get another one. Right, a few hours later. Nothing out there that I could find that would replace the top, so I've had to repair it. I've also repaired the wires here. I put 2 new wires on. So now we can just finish fitting this fuel pump and away we go. Well, away we go. I'll say we've still got a lot of work to do. Negative. So now I'm just reattaching the fuel pipe and clicking the clip back onto it to hold it in place. Now comes the hard task of trying to get the seal and the pump back into position. It was rather tight as the seal had exploded a little bit, but we got there in the end with it. I was a little bit worried that the fuel pump seal had sort of inflated a bit with it being so old, but luckily it's gone in. Now reinstalling the fuel tank, putting the straps on now. They weren't in too bad a condition. Yes, they're a little bit rusty. Arseholes. When you put it all the way up and then you realise, shit, I haven't plugged the fuel pump in. Oh well. Down we go a little bit again. So we have fuel. I've just cranked it over for a few seconds. Fuel is now coming through the pump. So I'm going to put it all back together now and see if it will start. Right, we're all buttoned up. The only thing that's missing is this connector from somewhere on here. I'll have to look back at the footage because it's been a week and I can't remember where this should go. Yeah, I can't remember at all. So yeah, I'll put that on. That's out the way, the cam belt. Fuel pipes are all done up, so let's see if we can get some fuel through. What I'm trying to do now by using a little bit of easy start to try and force bleed the fuel through. Okay, what's wrong now? Right, we've got to make sure we've got fuel coming out up here. So let's just pull this connector off and see how much fuel's coming through. Okay, plenty of fuel coming through there. So I've just undone that pipe down there and fuel has squirted out of it, and I'm pretty sure that that is the one which goes to the injectors, and I know that's the right one because I put one fuel pipe on at a time. So do we have a problem with the injectors? I hope not, because I really can't be bothered. I'm too tired, I'm jet lagged. So yeah, I need to get to the injector wiring and see if we have injectors sparking. So there's one of the injectors, 2, 3, and then 4 over there somewhere. I'm just going to plug this Noid light into it now and crank it over and see if it lights up. So as you've seen on that little bit, just that blinking light, that was where the injector's getting signal from the ECU to fire. So now we need to just pull a plug out and let's see if we've got any fuel in the cylinders. Right, it's been a couple of hours now, I've been messing around and it looks as though something's happened, something's blown. As soon as that fuel pump cranked for the first time, something's blown and I'm not even getting any spark anymore, and I'm not getting an engine ECU light either. And I'm pretty sure I was getting that before. I'm gonna have to look back through the videos and see if I was getting that, but I've got to have been because it started on easy start, so that means he'd got to be having injections, so they were working, and we saw earlier that the injector was working as well. So yeah, something's going on, don't know what. So I've just had a sit down and a cup of tea, and I thought, I've not messed with any of the wiring, everything was working before. The only thing I've messed with is the battery, so I had to mess with all the battery cables and plugged everything back in, and we now have an engine warning light. So let me see if I can hear the fuel pump. So there we go, engine warning light is now on, but I still can't hear the fuel pump prime. I've changed the fuel pump fuse just for shits and giggles. I've checked, so I need to check the fuel pump relay, I suppose. That could be misbehaving. The injectors are still disconnected. I've got the noise lighting still, so I can make sure I've got injection now at least. So I've now fixed one fault. So we've now got the engine warning light back on, injectors are running, injectors are working. I've put that seal back in for the distributor cap, and we'll start an easy start again. So the problem still lies in with the fuel pump. But if we put power to the fuel pump runs. I need to now get the car back up in the air and see that I get 12 volts to the wiring loom just before the pump, where I've been plugging in the power probe, because obviously it works from there back. So yeah, I've kind of had enough for today. I just want to go home and chill now. I've still got jet lag. Still got jet lag, so I've got to crack on anyway. The only thing I can't for the life of me think is, where did that go? I remember the connector broke off it when I was first messing with it, but I think it broke off camera. So there ain't many places it can go because it's not very long. So I'm gonna have to find out whether that's causing it. But I did see when I first cranked it, I cranked it with a key and fuel came out. So the fuel pump is working, or it did have a signal for one point. So it's gotta be a wiring fault somewhere. And I don't know, so I'm gonna have to have a mess. So after a few hours, I think we might finally have some progress now. The reason the engine warning light wasn't coming on was because of a battery positive connection. One of the leads was loose, so I've tightened that up, that fixed that. And then we still weren't getting fuel through to the engine. So I had to recheck the fuel pump in the tank again. That was perfectly fine. So I've gone back to the tank to make sure fuel was coming through, and it was. And I've sort of checked every pipe all the way up to the engine, and we had fuel coming through. So I've swapped the connections round on the fuel line return and the fuel intake on the engine itself. And I was a muppet, and I think I've got them the wrong way round. So fingers crossed, it should start now. So finally, she is up and running under her own power now. We can hear a major blow from the exhaust, which we're not surprised about. Sometimes doing this job, you can be a completing up a muppet and not realise that you've not put something in right, or put something in the wrong way around. When I started rebuilding it, I deliberately didn't take them out right until the end. And still, right at the end, I got it the wrong way around, and it's took me a couple of hours to find my own mistake, but we've got there in the end. So now we need to do the cam belt, water pump, so we can have the alternator belt back on. And then she can have her first little maiden voyage, but we're gonna have no brakes. So let's get cracking on that now. So there's the timing mark at the top of the engine, and this is the timing mark at the bottom, as you can see, all nicely lined up. Just removing the tensioner now, held in with just a 13mm screw. First, let's get this cam belt out of the way. condition of the belt wasn't actually that bad. I did notice on the sticker, or managed to work out mileage on it, and it had the cam belt done less than 20,000 miles ago. And if you just heard that tension adjust, it was well past its sell-by date. The top cam pulley will only fit back in one position. Just removing the back engine cover now, so hopefully I can access the water pump. Now that's free, I can move it out of the way to access the water pump bolts. I'm also making note of what position the water pump was in. That was a pull tab, so I can get the water pump out. Is there what I've just pushed? Nothing particularly wrong with the water pump, it is just very aged from sitting in that field for 15 years. Just fitting the new water pump seal now. You don't put any silicone or anything on it because you do have to rotate the water pump to get tension in the cam belt. Now I'm just cleaning out the water pump hole because there's lots of debris in there because the aluminium had corroded quite a bit. And if you see where the arrow is now, I've finally worked out where that sensor goes, and it is right there. The water pump was quite a tight fit to get it past that chassis leg, but once it's in, it's not too bad. Water pump is now all fitted, and this is how you tension the tensioner. Little Allen keel on the end there, and then that will rotate round, but as you can see, that tensioner is well and truly past it. Refitting the top cam pulley now, and then we can get the cam belt on, making sure that the arrows are going with the engine rotation. Cam belt is all done now, just checking the tension on the belt, and that looks pretty good. Cam belt is all on now. It should have been simple, but the water pump was a pain in the bum. I didn't figure out until afterwards that you need to kind of like put the belt on and then rotate the water pump a little bit to get the tension on the belt, and then tension the tensioner afterwards. So we're finally there now, and the tension is all good on the belt. So all that's left to do now is start it up. Now, if you look at the tensioner, I have had to kind of over tension it, but once I've started it, I'm going to have a look and see where the tension is then, and redistribute the belt if need be. So fingers crossed it all goes okay. Now I've just turned it back to the timing marks. As you can see, they're all still bang on. The airflow meter was unplugged, so as you can see it's lying on top of the engine, that's why it does sound a little bit rough. So finally, cam belt and water pump are done. Now I've done one and I know how to do them, they should be fairly straightforward, but this has taken me about 4 hours, which is a lot longer than I would have think most people do it in, but I'll admit it, first time I've done one, so I've took my time with it. So there we go, after a lot of effort and faffing around, we've finally done the cam belt. I have rotated the timing marks back to top, and they are all in the right position. So I think we're going to call that the end of this video now. Technically, the car could be driven, but as I know all the brake pipes are about to burst or have bursted already, I'm not even going to try it. So I'm going to put all this back together off camera. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also hit that bell icon if you want to receive notifications of further updates on the Calibra, because there is another one going to be landing next week. We can't leave that there, can we? We've got to give it a drive outside. It starts, it runs, I've got a handbrake, so let's try it. Good oil pressure, good battery voltage, ABS lights on, fuel sender doesn't work, so I put some more fuel in it, and the handbrake lights on because the brake fluid is low. First gear, foot's on the clutch, and we're off. So what do you think of that then? 15 years, a couple of days of work, and she's back up running and driving. So I am very pleased with that. So see you guys in the next episode.